What if you tried to pour the entire Pacific Ocean into one tiny cup? Imagine someone says, "Hey, what if we took all the Pacific Ocean and poured it into a regular plastic drinking cup?" All right, let's do the math. The Pacific Ocean is the largest body of water on Earth. Its volume is about 710 million cubic kilometers. That's a number so big it barely fits inside your brain. 1 cubic kilometer of water weighs 1 billion tons. So the Pacific contains roughly 710 billion tons of water. And you want all of that in a cup? Okay. A normal cup holds about 1/4 of a liter, or 2.5 times 10 to the power of -16 cubic kilometers. To fit the entire Pacific Ocean into it, we'd need to compress the ocean by a factor of about 2.8 trillion. Now, what would that water even be like? If you tried to squeeze it that much, the pressure would skyrocket. The hydrogen and oxygen atoms would fuse into something completely new. It wouldn't even be water anymore, more like plasma denser than the core of a neutron star. The cup itself would vaporize instantly, probably before you could even admire your new mini-ocean. Let's imagine magic physics instead. The water compresses, but its mass stays the same. That means the cup would still weigh around half the mass of Earth. You couldn't hold it, put it on a table, or even place it anywhere near the planet. It would punch straight through the crust and head for the core. Down there, it would probably become a new inner core and change Earth's orbit a little. Within seconds, the length of a day would shorten, and continents would shift slightly. Suppose humanity somehow survived. What happens next? The Atlantic and Indian Oceans would rush in to fill the massive hole left behind, merging into one super sea. The U.S. coastline would stretch all the way to Hawaii, and Australia might finally bump into South America. Cartographers would cheer, one less ocean to label. Climatologists, on the other hand, would cry. Without the Pacific, El Niño and global air circulation would collapse. The planet's temperature would skyrocket by dozens of degrees because all the heat the Pacific used to store is now trapped inside that glowing half-Earth mass cup buried underground. Humanity would, of course, try to adapt. NASA engineers might propose an orbital cup stabilizer, a device to keep the super-dense drink from collapsing into a black hole. Environmentalists would launch a campaign called Restore the Wave, trying to refill the dry ocean basins with desalinated meltwater from glaciers that no longer exist. Travel agencies would sell tours called Visit Where Guam Used to Be, featuring one confused parrot and a lot of dust. And what about the cup itself? With a mass equal to half the planet, its gravity would pull the atmosphere toward it, forming a whirling black hole-like funnel. Eventually, it might collapse into a new planet, Cup World, roughly Mars-sized, with a plastic surface and an ocean core interior. Not the worst place for a souvenir shop. Okay, maybe that's a bit extreme. What if, instead of compressing the ocean, we simply scaled it down? To fit all that water into a normal-sized cup, we'd have to shrink every molecule by 100 million times smaller than an atom. At that point, physics breaks. Quantum mechanics just throws up its hands. The water would turn into a chaotic soup of energy, not a liquid at all. Fine, last option, make the cup bigger. To hold the Pacific without compressing it, the cup would need a radius of about 9,000 kilometers, nearly the size of Earth. You could stand on its rim and watch the horizon curve inward. Humanity might use it as a giant space mirror or launch pad, and architects would proudly call it the most impractical piece of kitchenware in the universe. In the end, there are only two realistic outcomes. 1, the cup destroys the planet. 2, we just stand by the shore, look at the waves, and think, maybe we should leave the Pacific where it is. Because sometimes when something is that huge, the smartest move isn't to fit it into a cup, but to take a sip of common sense instead.